Elon Musk and Joe Rogan reuniting for another wild podcast. The world's richest man unleashing on a bunch of topics, including free speech. Musk dropping a bombshell revelation about the social media platform he owns, X, previously known as Twitter.
The degree to which Twitter was simply an arm of the government was not well understood by the public. A state publication is the way to think of old Twitter. It's a state publication. Republicans were suppressed at 10 times the rate of Democrats.
And Mr. Musk wasn't done. The billionaire revealing the real reason why he bought Twitter in the first place.
I was worried about that it was having a corrosive effect on civilization. If you've walked around downtown San Francisco, right near the ex-FK Twitter headquarters, it's a zombie apocalypse, what is essentially a mind virus to the rest of Earth. And the outcome of that mind virus is very clear if you walk around the streets of downtown San Francisco. It is the end of civilization.
Greg, I admire him a lot. He paid $44 billion.
He's amazing. By the way, that interview was incredible. There's about 15 minutes of it that is horrible when Musk and Rogan eat an anchovy and pineapple pizza, and they're over the microphone.
That's
it is the most disgusting thing. But this is so good. Just skip over that. Why would the world's richest man, who could do anything, do this? At a great cost to him. It's to save civilization. He realized that from outside, looking at Twitter, that it was a silencing mechanism that was removing dissent for just these pernicious beliefs of people that basically live in 5 square miles, right? And they're projecting these crazy beliefs that have destroyed San Francisco, ultimately around the United States, to create like an open-air apocalypse. And you know he's doing it. And he's doing an important thing, because look at the people that he's scaring. You're seeing extinctionalists, which he talks about, people who believe that your thoughts, or just humans in general, need to be controlled and ultimately silenced. If you're against Musk, you're essentially the villain in one of the greatest movies being made right now.
Dana, you have thoughts on this?
Well, I'm furious at anybody who missed a Jasper or Percy picture because of censorship, or an insult that I tweeted about Greg, because they were really, really good, and I could go back in the archives and see if I can find those for you. No, obviously this is a big problem, and I think that it's continued. And I wouldn't be surprised if this is happening now on TikTok. I mean, if you talk about the mind virus, look at what's happening in terms of anti-Semitism. And the guy who used to run Tinder said that the more that you post pro-Palestinian content, you get more views on TikToks, which means that, what do? You create more of those same things so that you can get more of that. So it's a self-fulfilling cycle.
How about Grindr, Jesse?
I'm just saying, he used to work at Tinder. I'm assuming I don't know anything. I don't even know what that is. But anyway, I had another good point to make, and that is this. I have always utilized, since the beginning of Twitter, utilized it for work. I find it impossible to use now. I find it hard to find breaking news on it. I don't know what's going on with it. Every day there's something different. You have to go from the for you to the following to the not.
That's confusing.
It's very confusing.
Just stay with
and you
for
cannot.
No, you go with the following.
No, for you.
No,
so much more fun.
Do you know what I get on For You? It's all dog videos, but I actually need to know what's going on in the war, and it's very frustrating. I hope it gets fixed.
All right. Kelly, what are your thoughts on this?
Look, I'm so happy that Elon Musk spent $44 billion to do this, because a lot of conservatives, really center-right people in this country, already knew they were being censored and shadow banned and silenced and canceled, but he's put real figures around it. And we have the evidence now. The only people trying to conceal those facts from us are those who were perpetrating those facts. And NPR had done a study that in the lead up to the 2020 election, basically like X percentage of tweets were coming from a very small percentage of people. Like almost all tweets were coming from very small. It's just people talking to each other and high-fiving each other. But the media use Twitter as an assignment editor. They literally think it's real. And they love to see how many likes they get and retweets. I mean, I've been very public about, I think Twitter helped add to the destruction of my marriage. I think it's corrosive to the body politic. And it's distortive for people who live online. We have a lot of people in this country now who live basically online. It's where they get their food, their information, their schooling, their work, their sex, their friendships. Get some fresh air, live offline. But I'm so happy that Musk did this. And you're right, Greg. The pieces of the interview that I read, and I didn't listen to it like you did, are brilliant. I just have to say, there's Elon Musk tells Joe Rogan the reason he would beat Mark Zuckerberg in a fight. And Elon Musk says, Zuck pulled out. he used the pull-out method. Rogan, so he pulled out of the fight. Musk said, yeah. I said, listen, at the end of the day, I'd like to fight you. But I don't know, Musk's got like 11 kids, so I didn't know he was a fan of the pull-out method.
I didn't know where you were going with that.
There it is.
Prime time, take us home here. How do you round this out?
So I made such a brilliant point yesterday, it's worth repeating. I did a deep dive into the Democratic profile of the Twitter employees. Only 50% white, mostly in their 20s, all making six figures, 90% vote Democrat, all nerdy computer science majors, all single, mostly, living in apartments in San Francisco. So that's one of the mind viruses. It joins forces with the FBI. Now, we did an FBI deep dive into their demographics. Control freaks, Trump derangement syndrome, Fauci lovers who see everything as a threat to national security. So this mind virus commingled with this mind virus created a super virus. I call it a psyop because it happened at the same time of the pandemic and the election. So everybody got rich, and then Joe Biden got elected, and then we're left picking up the pieces. But I want to know what he was wearing, Elon Musk, and I think I figured it out. It's a velvet blazer with a two-tone underneath. See how he's got the collar and the cuffs? And I see that as a button-down shirt with a orange silk blazer, but there's something else going on. If you see that thing coming down from the collar, it's like an extra layer of skin. I don't know what that is. Elon, tell us what you're wearing, because I got to find out.
Remember that line? What is that, velvet? The fastest is up next.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.